again, I'm not going to read it for you. I'm going to give you a summary of what it is. You read it, definitely read it, and it's here in the slides for you. But meet Mod C, you will get to know you'll get to know each other very well this year. But for now, this is all we need to know. You'll read a range of different texts. You'll read a range of texts which will influence your craft. So you'll read like imaginative texts. You'll read discursive pieces, and also like speeches and essays. Okay, you will compose imaginative, discursive, and persuasive pieces. In the syllabus, it says informatives. You need to know it, but for so far, even in like the HSC questions, they don't even bother mentioning informative. So you will practice more with imaginative, discursive, and persuasive pieces. You will reflect on your creative choices and the process of writing in your reflection. So how do we do it? So let's start here. Analysis of technical features and craft in text. So you start off by reading other people's text, by reading how they have crafted their own text. So you may imitate or transform the technical features from your text. So if you know, in my prescribed text, the author uses symbolism really nicely, and I want to continue using that in my own text, I may imitate or transform it. So how do I do that? I transform, so I may choose to transform form here. So playing with techniques. So McCann playfully fragments his work to mimic the disjointed process through which writing evolves. So my piece, that's my reflection. My piece utilizes an upholstery form, grafting together fragmented journal entries to likewise evoke a frustration at the disjointed process. This vexation is accentuated by exchanging numbered fragments to dated ones, marking the slow speed at which ideas take shape. So now I'm going one step ahead. I've used this form, and I've used the form that he used in his text, and now I'm elaborating on its effect. Then composition, so we analyze technical features and crafts in the text, and then we compose your own piece which combines the transforming influences. Then we reflect on those choices. So you will compose imaginative, discursive, persuasive, and hybrid forms. So you are allowed to like create a imaginary discursive. That works too. So reflection on creative choices. And then you will deconstruct prescribed text from all modules to enhance your composition. So you do want to, you can look at different ideas from all the different texts that you've studied in all the different modules in order to enhance your writing. Now, probably the question that's ringing in your head is what is a discursive text? Never heard of it before. A discursive text is a discourse. It's a verbal interchange of ideas, debate, and discussion. So, what does that mean? And I'm going to give you an example very soon. So Nessa describes it as text whose primary focus is to explore an idea or variety of topics. These texts involve the discussion of ideas or opinions without the direct intention of persuading the reader, listener, or viewer to adopt any single point of view. So most schools have taught the discursive as a personal essay or a creative non-fiction form. So there's literary style. So you're focusing on you're focusing on literary style and also the concrete subject matter. Okay, now what is a discursive writing? So what is discursive writing? Basically, it's not didactic. Unlike a persuasive, where you're like, okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is what I believe, this is my opinion, believe it with me. Not doing that here. Your aim is to expose the nuances of a topic. Your aim is to expose the complexity of a topic. You're not being didactic here. It doesn't follow set structure. It can be anything that you want. It can flow in any way that you want. So you really have a lot of freedom here. It contains a personal spin and also makes use of literary features. So the techniques that you can use here are anecdotes. Like it can be in like a personal essay. It can have that sense of that sense of sort of personal influence. There can be humor, imagery, extended metaphors, motif, irony, experimentation with form. Now remember, form is the structure here. If it's a discursive or imaginative form. And with form, we look at the macro, which is the genre, the structure, but also microform, where you may look at characterization or different techniques that have been used to mess with the form, like fragmentation or something, where the text is being fragmented. So yeah, let's have a look now. Let's simplify this, right? So topic, books, right? This is my topic. What does it mean for each one of these? For imaginative piece, I may talk about books as a mean of escape, but I can talk about anything, right? Like anything creative in books. A talking book, or book as a metaphor for knowledge, discovery, self-exploration. something like that. Now, in a discursive text, with books as my topic, I may talk about the role of books in education. Like, do we still need books versus, like computers now? The growing competition between paper books and ebooks, and what does that mean? Or the diversity of books and encompassing knowledge. Are only non-fiction books knowledgeable, or do fiction also offer knowledge, like moral knowledge or something? Persuasive. So I may talk about, why. So I just saw a question in terms of discursive, um, and it said, can we use inclusive pronouns, we, for discursive essay pieces? Yes, you can. That works fine for discursive. That could, again, be something that you talk about in your reflection, where you talk about how you use collective pronouns. That's really fine in discursive essays. So now, in persuasive, you may talk about paper books versus ebooks. I may say paper books are still awesome, better than ebooks or something. Books are integral to the education system. Non-fiction books need to be given more importance. So any topic, but I'm arguing for my point here. And then informative, I may give, it's about fact, it's about information, so I may talk about the history of books, or the rise of different, like, contextual literary periods. So basically, hopefully this paints to you the differences between each type of writing. If you've got any specific questions, please pop them up. Okay, so now let's have a look at effective writing. Key principles. So we want to have a strong concept thesis. We want to have a deliberately crafted structure, clever but sparing use of techniques, a simple plot, and we can go one step extra and have a twist. I think a twist is quite important, because it does spice up your text and just make sure that your mark is like hooked till the very end, and that can have a huge impact on your writing. So how do we generate ideas? They can come from reading, by writing a lot, journaling your ideas, and by using writing prompts. That always works too. So this is a pre-writing stage. Again, you can look at writing prompts, you can draw on the different world events, you can review a book or movie you find interesting, or you can use anecdotes and personal experiences. The process of writing, some more ways to get inspiration. You can use your favorite locations as settings, review your favorite films, books. You can discuss aspects from your schooling life, like, and question the importance of, for instance, education, like in a standardized test, are they still the way to go? Something like that. You can write from the perspective of your favorite character, so that could be like a Nessa sanctioned fanfiction. You're allowed to do that. You can use personal anecdotes, take inspiration from family history, objects, or historical events. Process of writing. You want to write your first draft, let it be terrible. Yep, start with whatever inspiration you have, write it quickly, and don't edit it yourself, let it be cheesy. So don't edit yourself, so let your creative juices flow. 2, let it rest, come back to it later. So you can, obviously, time plus cringe will be your best editor. Be harsh when you come back to it. Like, you can't cut out those cheesy ideas, and then you want to write a plan to solidify your concept. Revising, things to do, solidify your concept, heighten specific details, experiment with form, so like I said, macro and microform, and things to cut out. Remember, cliches, don't want them telling and not showing, melodrama, overindulgent prose, and extremely sensitive subject matter. We don't want that either. Remember, it's for Nessa, it's being marked by a teacher. Want to stick, don't want to mess with that. Also remember, the marker that's marking your work has read probably thousands or hundreds, let's be realistic, hundreds of these pieces as they're doing the paper. They do it in like one go, like they look at a batch and they're doing it. So you want your story to stand out, and having original content matter, and personally, like a little twist at the end can always help. Ways to stand out: experiment with form. You can have newspaper articles, diary entries, letters, fragmentation, non-linear timeline, but be careful with non-linear timeline. You can also look at absurdist form, unique narrative voice, so unreliable narrators, unlikable protagonists, right? Look at Shakespeare, he wrote Richard III, like that's one unlikable protagonist there, so you can definitely do that. If we can do it, why not you? Infused with personal qualities of characters like sarcastic, insecure, or satirical. Now, use of interesting techniques, and you also want to have specific details and emotions that allow nuance and complexity to be portrayed. Now, reflection. So module C, reflections. Remember, text can catalyze the creation of text. Text may respond to, develop, or refute other texts, and stylistic features and conventions can be imitated or transformed. So you'll draw on the technical and conceptual features of your prescribed text. how to read your module C text. So it can serve as a technical model. You can look at the form of your prescribed text, the language techniques that they use, the style and the voice in which the writing is done. So with form, you can look at structure, perspective, linearity. With style and voice, what is the tone of the writing? Is it optimistic? Is it sarcastic? Is it timid or intellectual or wistful? So let's go through a couple of examples. It says, from what time is it, where are you now? So prescribed text, I can use this as a model of form. So I've got fragmented structure, what Sandy sees or what he imagines Sandy can see. Limited third person, it is mid-afternoon in mid-America, 8.5 hours behind Afghanistan. And finally, weaving together fiction and metafiction. Let's say he definitely is her son. He's 14 years old. So I'm not reading the whole thing, but definitely have a look at this. But to show you that I can use the fragmented structure, the limited third person, and also the metafiction and fiction, the way in which it's weaved together in this text, the way in which it is woven together in this text. Text can also serve as a model for language techniques. So for instance, it's not uncommon for foregrounds highly individualized writing processes. Writers develop own language to describe it. It's not uncommon for macro planners to start writing their novels in the middle. There can be hyperbole, because in other people's methods are always so incomprehensible and horrifying. Extended metaphor, the idea of novel as a house, reiterates how writing is all-consuming and deeply personal. So there's wallpaper in the hall, even if the stairs lead nowhere at all. Okay, now, ways to read prescribed text. So this is from Spotty-Handed Villainesses. So prescribed text can serve as a model for voice. So Atwood playfully positions herself as the voice of reason in this text. She combines wit and factual analysis to present a personal perspective. Techniques that can create this: first-person perspective, rhetorical questions, references to other authors and humans. And humor, sorry. Ways to incorporate technical features. You can imitate, but you can also transform. So you can imitate the same technique and the same purpose as your prescribed text composer, but you can also transform it. You can transform it by using the same technique, but having a new purpose, and that's what you'll be doing more than likely, because your text is different with a different person, with a different purpose, but you can also play with the technique as well. Now, ways to incorporate technical features. So imitate. So for instance, Zadie Smith's interjection of hyperbole in her narrative, in her personal narrative to create the horrifying methods of others, reveals how the process is highly individualized. Similarly, given that the sample is in the highly personal form of a diary entry, the protagonist frequently expresses herself hyperbolically. So I'm now talking about how I have imitated the technique. I can transform it, so McCann playfully fragments his work to mimic the disjointed process through which writing evolves. Sample utilizes an upholstery form, grafting together fragmented journal entries to likewise evoke a frustration at the disjointed process. This vexation is accentuated by exchanging number fragments to dated ones, marking the slow speed at which ideas take shape. Finally, I can transform it with the same technique but a new purpose. So Atwood's rhetorical questions petition the reader to break down the boundary between author and audience, to actively participate in finding answers to her philosophical questions. In contrast, Sample poses rhetorical questions to destabilize rather than affirm the author's reliability. So remember, with writing reflections, you are getting marks on how you have deconstructed your own writing. So it's not about how well you know prescribed text and how you've talked about the technique and the purpose of the prescribed text. That's what we do in our essays. This is about your writing, so you need to break down your writing. So simplified, think of the reflection the same way you think of a short answer mini essay. So structure 1 can be thematic. So my piece unpacks how language is inherently ambiguous. Paragraph 1 is the ambiguity of language is frustrating for writers aiming to communicate a clear point. Paragraph 2, however, the ambiguity of language opens possibility to communicate. So that's based on themes, right? A second structure could be where my reflection is based on form and language. So I start off with my purpose. Purpose is really important. You need to have a purpose with your writing. So you need to, in your reflection, you need to talk about your purpose. So I may talk about form, so structure of the piece, the text type, the genre, and then language, and then talk about language techniques that link with the purpose. Structure 3, techniques. I can talk about language technique 1 from prescribed text and how you add to it with your own techniques. Part 2, I can talk about paragraph 2, I can talk about language techniques 2 from prescribed text and how you add it, with your own techniques. So You can also do a 1 paragraph one. That's if it's a 5 marker. If it's a 10 marker, you want to have 2 paragraphs. If it's a 5 marker, 1 paragraph works. So prescribed technique plus quote plus link to purpose. So technique influenced by prescribed text plus quote and link to purpose. So that's what we're doing. Aim for about like two to three quotes from your own piece, and then so from like so for a 10 marker, for each paragraph, aim for about 2 quotes from your own piece and 1 from the prescribed text to show how you've used the prescribed text as a technical model. And that, I think, is a good way to go about it. Now, internal paragraph structure. So prescribed text, but plus quote plus link to their purpose. Then we talk about the technique influenced by prescribed text, the quote plus link to our purpose, and then original technique from your own piece, the quote and the link to purpose. So the emphasis here is at your own writing. That's it.